Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Business and Economic Forum. We have an exciting show for you today. We are having some new guests tonight that are joining the Business and Economic Forum. All the way from Monrovia, we have Mr. Rav Songale. Rav, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here to share my experiences with the audience across the world.
Thank you so much. Also joining us for the first time is Mr. Charles King. Mr. King, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Jha. Thank you, fellow Liberians. It's wonderful to be here and be a part of this organization and an opportunity to hear what's at stake and how we can further our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Also want to welcome Mr. Depu Zuo, the university lecturer, the guy with the practical experience and consultant, a contributor to the pro-poor policy. So Zuo, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have from Southern California, joining us is Mr. William King, a community leader and also an avid real estate entrepreneur.
Yes. Greetings. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me on the show. Once again, I'm just so excited to be on and being able to explore different economic ways that we can help improve the quality of life of our Liberians. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Last but not the least is the financial consultant, the man who business policy not too far from President Trump.
That's a nice one.
Making money.
Oh, God.
Alex Chuchu Jones, welcome, brother, to on Liberia.
Thank you very much. I would take that as a compliment.
No, when Alex ready to make money, he can do anything to make money.
Listen, let's make Liberia great again, okay?
Exactly. Once again, welcome. Before we begin the show tonight, I want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is this time, we have moved our Business and Economic Forum from Wednesday to Saturdays. So we'll be coming to you your way every Saturday at 3 p.m. If there's any need to change the time, we'll let you know. But here we discuss economics, we discuss money. You know, for those of you who grew up in the church, the Bible says, Ecclesiastes 10:19, money is the answer for everything. You didn't know that, right? Money answers everything. The only thing the Bible frowns on, because many Liberians are Christians, is the love of money. But the Bible says money answers everything. So it's time to talk money. Normally, when we look at even though most of the attention has been on politics and political system, but all the political systems that we talk about, they are based on the economics. If you hear capitalism, you hear all these things, they are not political systems, they are economic systems. So it's economic that drives the world. Gentlemen, before we begin, I want to play a video of a convention that's taking place. And the song that I played earlier came from that convention. And it's a Liberian in the diaspora, most of the time have these conventions, and we raise a lot of money. It start with Friday, we call that the arrival of the guests, meet and greet. Then on Saturday morning, business session. On Saturday night, we have the ball. And then on Sunday, we have cook out and all that. And all that is spent, we spend money. So I want us to begin our water cooler movement tonight by talking about these Liberia diaspora conventions, the money we make, and how maybe that can be the basis of raising this diaspora fund so as to be able to invest in Liberia. So let me play that video for you and see Liberians at one of these conventions having fun. You got an idea. Let's talk about the economics of these conventions. Mr. King, you are a community leader, so you've been in some of these conventions. Let's talk how we can make money.
Yes, yes. Well, one of the things is that we definitely we come together. What I see with those conventions is that it's based on relationships, be it tribal or communal or from the same neighborhood or community and so forth. And so what we have done is that despite some of maybe the economic challenges and despite how we view Liberia, where sometimes we criticize what is going on, we do have a sense of passion and a deep love for our country. And so we tend to rally around these things, events, conventions, nonprofit celebrations, fundraising things. We raise money for a particular cause. And yes, it can be from something as small as $3,000 raise all the way up to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. There have even been some fundraisings do where they have enough money to build a school that's maybe 30, 40 or 50,000. And where the rubber hits the road in Liberia, if you go to Liberia and you touch down, you're gonna see all over in different areas, different schools or different clinics or something that has been sponsored by these organizations in the diaspora. Now, the question is that sustainable? But that's for a whole nother discussion. But does it exist? Do we have the money in our communities to be stakeholders? I think so. And I think what you just showed points to little evidence here and there where there is some economic ability.
Mr. Zuo.
Yes, thank you very much. I think this kind of a gathering is very much important. The problem that we need to do is to see how best we can improve it. Besides being for social gathering, it's good for us to see how best to garner the social capital to financial capital and to serious investment. And that every year you might go for this year, it can be for some social reason. There might be this issue of unity, and you can discuss it, expose other issues. And the next engagement can be an opportunity for investment decision making. Maybe that can give opportunity to Liberians who already involved into businesses can now come and share their experience. You can have an opportunity for people to share their booths and display their businesses and come and also invite Liberians from home to come and also be a part of the convention to share, to sell their market share of the kind of investment they're doing. Like we're talking about jungle water, jungle power. Can come and be a part of such conventions. So Liberians who have interest can buy share into the business, and that make it more investment driven, more developmental oriented program, instead of every year we just have a gathering to just dance and go back. And I know the dancing aspect is good. It bring the amusement, it bring the unity, it bring that cohesion. But one thing that is very much important that we need to actually look at for modern Liberia for us to spur development and growth is to focus on how we can use this small opportunity, we can network to see how best to build a bigger team. If one person is coming and hear that, okay, Liberians that are interested in RT, investment in RT, they can do their business proposal and come and do the presentation at the conference. When they do the presentation at the conference, it could even encourage other Liberians to say, okay, no, I want to be a part of the business, I can buy a share in it. Or I have a company that also is willing to invest in this, and that became a serious network to give us investment opportunity to develop our country. So I think it's a very good gathering. We just need to improve on how best we can bring what we call the finances, the investment decision, and how to improve the living standard, and how to engage more private sector discussion instead of more focus on politics and social things. So these are things that we got to be looking at to make Liberians to be more investment oriented, to be very sensitive to economic decision making. I think that's one of the points that I would stress, and should be thinking about what to do next in our next convention for EULA or the community group, the county meeting, and the rest of it.
Thank you. Mr. Songale, you are right there in the motherland, Liberia. And I know you hear these conventions and the impact some of them are making in your community. Tell me what's the news about the conventions and the organization and the raising money that you hear about that we do here in the States?
Thank you very much. And let me say this, it's a good opportunity that Liberians in the diaspora can gather together to see how best they can support activities back home. But like Depu said, most of this gathering is about networking. It's not so much about the economic value or economic return to Liberia in terms of how we invest into tangibles, how we invest into businesses, how we invest into roles, how we invest into power. And I will have an interest to discuss the power that I represent my old man, my godfather, Mr. Thomas Floyd, who is managing the cross-border current in Nimba. And there's a lot of opportunity. Infrastructure-wise, Nimba does not have that kind of high level of infrastructure development. So it's about time that these conferences gather the necessary information, send people on ground to do an assessment of what are those missing links. How can we bridge the gap from the diaspora? So when you define the goal of these meetings, it helps to shift the development agenda of our country. But if you just say, okay, I think the people need water, I think the people need bridges, I think the people need hospital, without coming back on ground to do a need assessment of what the actual issues on ground are, you just be making an assumption. But I support the fact that Liberians in the diaspora should gather, should have this convention, but the convention should be supported by evidence, statistics of what are those needs and demands that are lacking back home that they are trying to mitigate, or they are trying to fix, or they are trying to help improve. Yeah. When that is done, you will see the net value of why these gatherings are important. But most people see this gathering as a network. I haven't seen my brother for a very long time, because America, like I said, some of who have traveled to America understand that people spend 16, 18 hours working, so they don't have the time to network with their family. So some people see these conferences as a moment to network instead of as a moment to make economic decisions that will impact our country. So I think it is important that we have these gatherings or these conferences, but it should be defined by specific. What are we trying to achieve from this meeting? Can we invite someone like Floyd from Liberia to come and explain to us the issues that the country need, or the issues that the country need? Or can we invite Mr. Debuzo, who is an economist, who understands the economic challenges within the country? When these things are backed by evidence, you make a sound economic decision or a sound development decision for the country. So I support the gathering, but I think the gathering should be defined by the scope and a specific agenda that you try to achieve or you try to implement.
Thank you. Alex, you are listening.
Daddy. Well, I don't think there's much to add to what the fine gentleman has just said. I think gatherings are good, but it should be geared towards something productive and something that will create growth for the country, or else it doesn't mean too much. So there's not much to add to that. I think we said it.
Good. Thank you. And Charles, Ralph stressed a very important point about, the beneficiaries. Most of our work here impact people back home, but sometimes we don't ask them. There is an example of a very good project that was done in Grand Crew County. So what happened? People went and they saw the water and everything else, and they said, "Oh, this water is not good." They tested it, and they came up with the brilliant idea of having hand pump in the center of the city, of the town. So they built a hand pump, without even asking the people, you know, and explain and getting them involved in the project. So what happened? After some time, they abandoned the hand pump and started going in the bush to drink the same dirty water. Why? Because the waterside road, the reason they go for water is not just for drinking water. But they didn't understand that, even though the idea was brilliant, but did not understand. So the things that people do on the waterside road, they couldn't do them in the city. For instance, if you are a married woman and you want to see your boyfriend, it's right there. If there were some issues at home that needed to be or to be discussed, the men from the town go to the waterside to discuss that. If a boy came to town and needed to do wrestling or wrestling match to introduce him to the town, it's on the waterside road. So all these things do not take place in the center of the town. So because the locals were not involved to ask them what really they need, because even if you wanted to build that hand pump, if you build it outside the town, it was still going to serve the purpose. But the very bright people from the United States did not understand why the people were going there. So they abandoned that. So most of these projects that turn to be white elephant projects come about because the locals are not involved. Charles, let's conclude on our water cooler movements on these conventions and investments in Liberia. Your thoughts?
You know, that is an excellent example, because what I began to think about as you were discussing the various projects and business and improving the economics of Liberia, of our lovely country, I thought about the people. And so it was interesting that you moved right into that, because you know what's more important, and you pointed out, is how we educate our people, how the healthcare of our people is maintained and elevated, you know, and then how we're able to self-preservation, providing our own food. We have enough resources in our country. So the key point to where you're saying is, you know, and you know, another element that I think is very important that sometimes is missed is the integrity and ethics of people. Sometimes we tend to be a little bit greedy, or selfish. But in all of this, it kind of turns around to the fact of those that are, you know, I think like you said, these conventions, we raise money, but we need to connect with those on the ground. You know, and I had a wonderful conversation with Mr. Jones earlier during the week, I think it was yesterday, and he pointed out some very important things that, yes, you know, sometimes we're looking at what we want to gain from things, but, and connecting to what you're saying, it's important to find out that the recipients, that there's a need for the recipients as well, and that there's a win-win situation that comes out of all of these. So I just want to say that's a great example. You know, another area, you know, education is so important. And so, you know, another line I think that we need to look at is how do, you know, there's a connectedness between what we're investing, what we're trying to give, and also from the results on what's coming back and what the people need. So those are my thoughts, Dennis, as it relates to that.
Thank you so much. And if you are just joining us, welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is our business and economic forum. We come your way every Saturday at 3 p.m. Tonight's discussion is, or this afternoon's discussion is on infrastructure investments. And for this, I turn over to our chairman for the day, Mr. Depu Zuo, who is going to chair the discussion tonight. And take it away from me, Mr. Zuo.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ja. I think you've been doing a wonderful job. To our listeners, what we're going to be discussing tonight is specifically on electricity, water and sewer, and also tourism sectors in Liberia. These are major areas in terms of infrastructure development that Liberians need to actually focus on. And what we've done tonight is to invite one of the participants or contributor to the electricity corporation in Liberia, a private firm and not a government firm. And what we're trying to encourage is to encourage public-private partnership in terms of infrastructure development. Government does not have the resources to invest in almost everything, inadequate budget support, and therefore individual private sector individuals have become in companies from abroad. But we have a very good example with Jungle Electricity, which is a Liberian-owned business that now distributing power from Cote d'Ivoire to rural Liberia. And on this show tonight, what we're going to be discussing too will be what are some of the investment opportunities for Liberia in the diaspora? How do we look at water and sewer, water and sanitation? Do we wait for water and sewer to do everything? This is a regulatory arm of government. It's not an investment arm. Can individual go into water besides government? What's about tourism? Liberia now, just for the past, in fact, for this month alone, Liberia has a high rating. Liberia has been considered the first, is the #1 country in the world that's very receptive to stranger guests in terms of hosting people around the world. Liberia is the #1. And at the same time, when it comes to potential for tourism opportunity, Liberia is #10. So in Africa, so what do we do in terms of all of these opportunities? These are all positive news for Liberia. How can we translate these data into reality, transform the life of Liberia? So tonight, I'll first of all give opportunity to Mr. Ralph Sonkale to just give us highlights in terms of electrification in Liberia. What role is Jungle Water playing right now? What's your contribution to electrification of Liberia? And you just gave us some history of your company and what are some of the opportunities? Are there other ways that Liberians can get involved? Hello, is muted. Ralph is muted.
I'm not.
Okay, yeah, you're out now. Yes, go ahead.
Over, Ralph.
Okay, like I was saying, let me first provide a disclaimer so people know around the world because a lot of people are listening. Jungle Energy Power is a company headed by Mr. Flosset Thomas. Flosset Thomas has to be my godfather. So I'm representing him. I do not work for the company. I consult so people know because we have a lot live coverage. But we have done a lot in NEMA. We acquired the management contract from LEC to manage the cross-border current across NEMA. We call it the NEMA Grid. And since we took over our project, it's been very successful. And to date, we have a extension to Yukepa, we have extension to Kokopa, we are in Sakapie, but there's still a challenge because you understand that most of the people in those areas are not industrial user of electricity. They are mostly home user. So it's not a lot of opportunity in terms of huge industrial consumption of power, but it is more sustainable. And since Jungle Energy Power took over, the power has been very much sustainable, and we have done everything possible to ensure that small, medium enterprises are connected, the security apparatus are connected to ensure that people can enjoy the light. And like we said, let me just go back to the previous conversation that has to do with the issue of these conferences. For example, when the grid was constructed, they did not construct the road, the link at least to ban. So currently, that with current. So if these conferences took into consideration the real issues on ground, which we call in public administration, the bottom to top approach, go on the ground and understand what the real issues are. Okay, Sanico is connected, Logwatu is connected, Camp is connected, Kanta is connected, or Sagapi is connected, but BAN is not connected. So can we say we having this year conference and it will be titled Connecting BAN Statutory District? By that, you already know the cost, what it costs to connect BAN for Sagapi. When you tailor your programs or your conference in that direction, it's so tangible and impact lives. Because the mayor in BAN wants to do a co-water business, but he has the constraint of power. And because there aren't a lot of economic potential in terms of big user in the industry, no businessman will want to invest in an area that doesn't have a huge economic return. So when these conferences are held, knowing that it goes beyond economic value, but it goes to the point where they want to help communities to improve their lives, then you will see people will give more support. They will generate more money to impact the communities. So I would suggest that when these conferences are about to be held, they invite people on ground, and we that on ground will feed them. And like I said, BAN is not connected with the LEC grid in NEMA. And that's our desire as Jungle Energy Power to connect BAN. But we also constrain economically because the business is not at that level where we have excess of investment or returns on our investment to expand. So we're looking at those economically viable communities for now that will give our revenue, and we can use that revenue to expand. But if we have our brothers and sisters in the diaspora who see the need to have these conferences and generate the revenue to connect in this area, it will help very much. Like I said, in terms of investment, Jungle Energy Power is open into infrastructure development like housing, like tourism, and as the mother company has more than 200 acres of property in Ganta City, looking for someone who is willing to invest in infrastructure, in tourism, in hotels, in mall, in playgrounds. But if we don't have the conversation like we're having tonight, we wouldn't have the opportunity to share our experiences. So it is important that our brothers in the diaspora invite prominent Liberians, business people, or prominent Nimbayan who are willing to share their experiences and who are willing to provide information on the gap in their investment. So once somebody abroad there can see the reason how they can invest in Nima County.
All right, thank you. So for the information, we are actually discussing the whole Republic of Liberia. It's not only Nima. So the question there is that what's the opportunity of Jungle Energy moving towards linking Guangzhou and Maryland, because the Cote d'Ivoire power is also close to this county.
Jungle Energy Power is open to collaboration and partnership with anybody who wants to invest. We are prepared. We have the infrastructure. We have the experience. We have the manpower. But we need somebody to come and with capital investment to say, okay, I want us to partner and invest in Guangzhou. And when you bring that kind of proposal, Jungle Energy Power is willing to partner with anybody, be it into the electricity industry, be it into tourism, be it into whatever. Our diversification does not limit us to NEMA. We are willing to work in any part of Liberia, but we need people with the right mindset, with the right investment to see how best we can expand. Our goal, if you read Jungle Water Group investment or motto, we say taking Liberia out of Monrovia. So if we are saying taking Liberia out of Monrovia, it means we are open to partnering with any well-meaning Liberians who want to ensure that Liberia is developed, who want to ensure that people have jobs, and who want to ensure that people are living comfortably.
Thank you very much. And now I'm going to go to my colleague, starting with King, Willon, not Taft, Willon King. You've listened to the man on the ground.
Yeah, Ralph. Thank you so much. I know this is your first time on, so I'll just take a few minutes and give you my background real quick. I spent 13 years working for an electricity company called Southern California Edison in Southern California. So most of the things that you're speaking about, I have intimate knowledge about those things. In addition to that, I was also home for about 3 months in 2012. Now I've been home this year twice, but I just saying that the 2012 I was home and I was able to kind of look at a little bit more in depth the electricity within the Liberian context. And just to fast forward to jump straight to it, something that you mentioned is that you are on the distribution side. And from the distribution side, every time you run a wire, whether you run it for 1 mile or 2 miles or 3 miles, there's a cost. Now, question for you, you guys, I assume you're getting paid for every kilowatt that is sold. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, and also, if in your area there were businesses or factories or different things around there, then obviously you would have a chance to make a little bit more income because you already have the foundation for the grid. So you would just plug more in, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
Now,
that's the missing link. Not
yeah.
a lot of people, in my area that are into industrial or big businesses that consume a lot of power. A lot of people in my area are people who are home user. A lot of
Right.
home user.
Right. Now for your area, will it be okay to maybe assume that the price per kilowatt is maybe lower than what they have in Monrovia and is more consistent and reliable, or is the price the same?
It's less than Monrovia. In Nimba, we currently sales at 25 cents per kilowatt.
Okay. Okay.
In Monrovia is about I think 35 to 37 cents per kilowatt.
Okay, so I want to say this, and I don't want to say this as the hindrance. I don't want to say that as the hindrance, but I want to say what I'm going to say as the main challenge, that when we come together with our minds, that possibly something that we can all overcome. So here's what I'm going to say. In California right now, for example, the price per kilowatt is between 11 to 14 cents where I'm at. 11 to 14 cents, and the average wage in California maybe is about 40 to 30,000 to 40 to 50,000. In Liberia, in the Nimba area, for people who are doing business, it may be only $700 or maybe $800 or maybe way less. In Senegal, and I use Senegal because our current Liberia government, we are familiar with some work in Senegal because of the relationship there with the president and the Senegal government. Now, in Senegal, the price per kilowatt, which is reliable, consistent, it doesn't cut, is right now is at 14 cents. And U.S. aid through the MCC is going to be eventually making a contribution to Senegal as part of their giving package. And the president over there in Senegal had the thought, and because he hasn't done it yet, but he was going to take something up over the 200 million that they were going to give him, and he was going to dump it into electricity. And their goal was to lower electricity to about 11 cents. So definitely when we look at Liberia, we have to understand that we're going to be competing against a country like this for external investors. But more importantly, we have to look at some kind of system of maybe financing or some kind of investment where we're able to see a bigger future and wait a while before we see a return on our investment. But I think you definitely have something there. I think it's about getting a few financial professionals to crunch the numbers, along with some other pieces also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But one thing I would like to say to you that I understand the analogy, but we did not set price as Joint Energy Power. The price we currently sales for was created and developed by the government based upon what the West African Power Pool were offering the power for to Liberia. So I just try to make that clear. We did not set the price. The price was set by the government of Liberia based upon the current reality and based upon the cost of generation from Cote d'Ivoire to Liberia.
Yes, that is definitely true. Within the electricity sector, let me just take a step back for our other audience to what you just said, Ralph, which is even here in the U.S. internationally, the price, the rate at which you charge electricity is something that is set by the regulatory arm. And they do that because electricity is a very, very heavy investment, You are on the distribution end. That's one investment. And you've experienced that. This is not even getting into the generation part or some of the other pieces, which is, that price kind of gets added to the rates. So our rates and everything like that definitely is something that at least we can rest secure and understand that it's done in a regulatory environment. It is not done on a individual basis. So there are some good things about that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We turn to Ellis Tutu Jones.
I just have a few questions for Mr. Ralph. So I'm listening. This company, one is how long has it been around? Do you have a website that I can review some of your financial data? Is it profitable, and who are the shareholders?
Okay, thank you very much. The company has been around for the last 4 years, 4 years running. It has been in operations for the last 2 years. The dominant shareholder is Mr. Thomas Floyd. They have 2 shareholders, and the highest shareholder is Mr. Fleur Thomas. And after this conversation, I will email the link to Depu, and Depu will give you the link for Jungle Energy Power website.
Okay. Yeah, just a follow up. So is it a public company? Can you explain to me and why is that information not public?
It's a private company. Jungle Energy Power is a private company, but it is in the space of the public-private partnership with the government. Jungle Energy Power is a private company owned by Mr. Thomas Floyd and his partner, but they are in a PPP with the government of Liberia on a public-private partnership.
Okay, and the reason why I asked those questions is because I think you indicated that you were open to foreign investment, you're open to do other businesses,
Sure.
Partners, investor. And as an investor, one of the things I would want to know is, okay, can I verify the information you're talking about? Is it profitable? What's the revenue for last year? What's the expense? Are those information available? And the reason why I stress this point is because many Liberians who start companies, I know there's a few insurance companies in Liberia, there's some banks and some companies, they do a horrible job in terms of management. They want investors to come, including Liberians, but they don't have any disclosure. Some of them don't even have a website. As we were speaking, I just went on the Liberia Electricity Corporation website, okay? And there's no information, there's no financial information. It says the page is under construction. Now, that's a joke. Liberians need to be serious. Okay, you cannot run a public company, all right? Even a private company, when I say public in the sense where it's serving the public, I don't mean part of the government. And you call yourself a manager, and you don't even have the most basic rudimental financial information for the last, I'm not asking for last year. How will you attract investors? Who's gonna wanna invest into something? You know, and I think that information should be there. Even if you have a nonprofit, have a website and disclose information. If you're 20% shareholder or 25%, show some of your highlights, the things that you're doing, your successes, your challenges. So what I would suggest is what some of these companies need to do, including the PRC and the LEC and I think the port, they need to go to the University of Liberia, get a group of students, all right, and put them on a project to get those information to the public on their website. That doesn't take IMF. It doesn't take the World Bank. We don't need foreign partners to do that. We don't need the government to do that. If you call yourself as a management student, okay, it's just disheartening to see how people run entities in Liberia. You should be responsible, and you should at least give basic. Thank you very much. And I encourage this information are now public on a website. Okay, put them on a website so that everybody can see it. Don't send it to me directly. Don't send it to Mrs. Zoe. Yeah, let it be published and all your information, how much you made. If you lost money, that's fine. Companies lose money all the time, big companies, but let it be there. It's called public disclosure, and that's what brings confidence in business and in success in business.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, and definitely would give it the website with all those information. And it's a good thing to say here. We get into the digital age in Liberia, and you know, digitalization was not one of the things that a lot of Liberians was doing until now. So we get into there, and I take that as an advancement, and we'll work on it to see how best we can publish most of those basic financial information that is required for investment purpose.
Thank you. We're here in the U.S. because most of the times when we criticize, people, the one legitimate question is, what are we doing? We're here to help. If you reach out to me and say, look, Alice or Williams or Charles, look, we have a problem. We have a wonderful company, but we're struggling with the technology. You'll give us some input. So instead of going to some of these stupid parties and dancing and all the things our country going to the gutter, we should be working on these things. Okay, so we're here to help. We're not just here to criticize and say, oh, you're not doing anything. You're doing a great thing. The people on the ground are doing great work, but they need to collaborate with other people to make it better so that it can be more professional.
Thank you very much. Now we go to Mr. Da. Your comment.
Yeah, Mr. Zue, and I want you to comment on that because Ellis raised a very important point, and Rob may not have that financial knowledge about what to do. So you were being on the ground, you were teaching at a university. What are some of the challenges when it comes to these financial disclosures and how really to take a company public? How can people, investors be attracted to invest in some of these companies? What are some of the challenges these companies have doing that? Mr. Zue, I wanted you to comment on that.
Yes, I think it's true. One of the challenges that we have is investment, disclosure, information disclosure. You should be in a position to go. Companies should be in a position to actually, in fact, disclose their structure, financial statement, and all of these things should be out. But because of the capacity constraint, not many people do that. In fact, when board resolutions are made, there are things that are supposed to actually be made public so that shareholders, people who have share in it, should be in a position to have idea on what the company is doing. But for the public sector, in terms of the public sector, you don't need to go through that. It is mandatory. That's why making the Public Information Act is there. So they're supposed to make it public, like LEC, like water and sewer. What they do is supposed to be made public to for citizens to know. In addition to that, it's a very good suggestion from Alice. One of the things that there is that the academic institution building.
We're kind of losing Mr. Zue there because what I want to understand is, do they know how to do it? They don't know how to do it. Are they holding information? What really is the problem?
I think to also speak to that, it's not that they don't have the information. That it's just the part that they don't understand what the value proposition is by providing this information to the public. They think that it's a confidential information that they must keep to themselves, and they fail to realize that the more you publish this financial information, it helps to create opportunity for investment. But if an investor sees the financial information, they will know that you're credible, and they will believe that you're in the best position so they can do business with you. It's just a matter of information, like Alex said previously. We need to provide information, and we need to tell them the benefit of those information to their companies and to the public.
Thank you.
Bobby?
I'm here. I'm right here.
And so, Dennis, if I can just step in just for a minute here. And am I audible?
Yes,
okay. So, okay. One of the purposes of having this forum, it's not one of those places where people come because they don't have anything to do and just just sing praises and support. And there are too many of those around. Our purpose here, seriously, is to help build Liberia. Is to help make it better. And we got to get people kicking and screaming. Then that's what we have to do. If we have to embarrass some people, like I was just showing you on it, this is the Liberian LEC. Okay, this is this entity here gets a huge amount from the government. You go on their website, a director on the website. Okay, and this is not something that is difficult. If you don't have a web tech or you don't have that information available, all right, then pay somebody to get it available. You have a board of director. Who are they? I'm not going to invest in a company or go and tell somebody, go to LEC and say, oh, let's just go invest. The pictures is already messed up. Look at that. And then we talk about we want to build 5 lane highways in Liberia. We want to build skyscraper when you can't even manage a website as a public corporation that's getting millions of dollars. It embarrasses me. If I went to a meeting and have my friends and say, look, come invest in Liberia, and the person do go on the website, we're talking electricity every day, and that's why, and you can go across the spectrum of Liberian public corporation and the private ones, even the businesses. We're just joking the other day where there's this huge hotel, a condominium in Liberia that was built by one of the most prominent person, Mr. Alexander Cummings. And I was asking, I said, okay, I want to rent a place in that place. Can you give me the website? I go on the website and I see a Gmail, okay? All right, and the prices for the place is $4,000 to $5,000 a month. Now, the person that struck my mind is that if I'm going to give somebody $4,000 a month, you want to tell me they can't even get a correct business address? Now, he may not know it. Maybe, like I say, he has different expertise. For any investor, anybody who is a company, even if you have a nonprofit, those are the things to look for to see how capable you are. Because the thing what I'm looking at, if I go and rent it in a place and you don't even have a professional, what you call email address, what happens if the water breaks? Who am I going to contact? Person? Okay, so sometimes when we see, and like I say, I'm not the kind of person that if I'm going to say something about somebody, I'm going to say openly because I think that's the only way we can improve. If you want to say something about me, come here, let's talk about it. If I'm wrong, I will make an apology. But Liberians, we need, especially the professional people, we need to be serious people if we want to build our country. And we need to stop playing around and saying we like this person, we don't like this person, you know. And I can just say today I'm wearing my CDC t-shirt, okay? And I can care less if I criticize whoever, okay? Because the fact is, it doesn't matter what t-shirt I wear. Tomorrow I can wear Unity Party t-shirt. But when it comes to business, that's a serious matter. That's a different thing. And so that's what this show is set up for, and that's what we're trying to encourage. We're trying to encourage professionalism, investment for Liberia. And we can't be here trying to do that. And then people there who are getting paid to do something can't do their own job. So please, I mean, if you guys have friends, reach out to these people, let them come here. If they need help, okay, let us all work together to make these things correct because it reflects back on all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. And if you are just joining us, this is focused on Liberia. We are discussing infrastructural development and number one, infrastructure investment. And number one is the one in electricity. We have from Liberia representing the jungle water energy, Mr. Ralph Sangale. And if you want to join the discussion, I posted the numbers to call, that's 605-313-6004. The code is 791403. Let me go to Mr. Charles King as we Charles, we're talking electricity here.
Thank you, Ralph and Alex and William and all regarding the conversation around electricity. And especially, you know, my background is telecommunication, wireless, and kind of looking at from a finance perspective and planning. And those were really good points that Alex mentioned about the integrity and transparency on businesses and see the growth. And Ralph, as I think about, you know, the current jungle water energy power, and you mentioned about, you know, the customers that are currently being serviced. Over the last, I think you mentioned 4 years, the company has been in operation, or actually in business, and 2 years of operation, is that right?
Sure.
How much growth have you seen, you know, in the use?
Currently, we have about close to 3,000 customers on our network, but predominantly they are home users, small users.
Okay. And I think, you know, that's a good point. As you talk about the expansion and investment opportunities, do you have kind of a plan on the growth, on the kinds of industries that you're looking that you can invite to come into NIMBA to help? You know, is that something in the plan? Is there a business plan? Is there a 5-year plan that you kind of was in place that you're working toward?
We currently at the end of our first 3-year strategic plan, which focuses on expansion, how we expand the grid to different locations. For example, the original construction did not take into consideration Yekepa, And in our strategic plan, we put into that how we can connect Ikepa, which we have done. We put into our plan what are the opportunities so we can connect a Bound. There's a big city in Nima called Bound. It's a agricultural rich area. They do a lot of cocoa and coffee stuff there. So that has been our plan. It has been basically focused on expansion into new communities and new cities.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. Other question I'll ask regarding employees. Are you hiring local people for the employment?
All of our employees are local.
And
before we took over the grade, there were a few guys who used to work for the LEC. So we took them and maintained them to work for the Jungle Energy Power. And we also recruited a lot of Liberians from BWR, from the University of Liberia, who did the electricity.
Awesome. That was going to be my next question regarding, funding and also putting back into those organizations, right? As far as where you're getting the know-how, because, you got to have, you have a lot of Liberians on there that's working and then they're gaining the expertise. What about, are there development plans, in order to develop the managers within the company?
For now, we don't have a plan for internal development in terms of knowledge gap, because currently what we are doing, those we have hired are people who have the expertise, who are ready to go, because we came about because there was some fragility within the sector in terms of maintaining the network. So our strategy was to get people who are already running instead of getting people who are crawling. So as the business increase or improve, when there's a knowledge gap, we'll definitely see how best we can provide that opportunity for training. But realistically, we hire people who have the already rep expertise to get the work done.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much. Very impressed with, so far regarding what it is that you guys are doing. And to Alex's point, transparency, getting the information out there, especially when you're trying to attract investors, and finding how you're progressing along the way will really help, so that when you're encouraging and trying to seek out investors, they themselves will be encouraged to invest because they're seeing the benefits of it. So thank you guys for what you're doing. Continue doing it. And as Alex
exactly. And the good thing is the benefit that I'm proud of is the fact that the CEO, Mr. Thomas Flor, believes in people, in professionals, people who understand the subject matters, who are willing to help him improve his business. So when there's a good idea, good suggestion, he takes it seriously. And I can say to you tonight, I know he's watching, I know he's listening, and most of those points raised by Alex will be considered. And in the next few weeks, you will see a change in how we do things, a change in how we do disclosure with our information.
Yes, Ralph, I think one of the biggest points to Alex's point also, and also William, in this whole forum, there is a real opportunity for investments in Liberia from the diasporans. And if we can funnel and channel it into areas like electricity, like William had mentioned, how we can then help to lower the prices and improve, our own country. And we have money that, from the diasporas that we're investing in America. But we would rather invest in Liberia. I tell you that for sure.
But one of those potential areas, I can safely say to you that we need to invest in, if the right people who want to invest, is an alternative power source from within. Currently, one of our challenges is the fact that we're getting current from across the border, and sometimes when there's a challenge across the border, with the outage, it takes us 24 hours to restore power. But if we have an alternative power source, for example, the clean energy, like solar farm, people need to start to think about how they can invest in solar farm in Nima. We are privileged to have a very huge land space to dedicate to that kind of project. So when people want to invest in Nima, they need to think that way, or they want to invest in Liberia, we need to see how best we can think about an alternative source of power like solar energy. In Nima, we are blessed to have a couple of waterfalls that we can develop to do a mini dime. These are potential areas that people can invest in.
Thank you. And I want to welcome back Mr. Depu Zuo. Depu, he got disconnected. And so Depu, I will send it back to you. We have a caller on the line right after you make your comment.
Thank you so much for the information. I came in and my computer went off. But one of the things that there from William's conversation before about MCC support to Senegal, I just want to come with information on Liberia too. MCC is also supporting Liberia, and they actually approved over 250 million United States dollars for compact project in Liberia. And out of that money, about 80% of that money is towards electricity, is on energy. And these are the opportunities. They now put out a regulatory arm for energy distribution so that people can now, the distribution can be done through private investment like what Jungle Water is doing. What Liberians need to do now is that we have enough power in terms of generation, but in terms of distribution is where the challenge is. And we need to look at it from the investment perspective because like Ralph said, if you can't actually running a cable, you need to be looking at the consumption and the distribution and the return on that investment you're going to be doing. So I will also suggest that for viewers and listeners to see how best that they can partner with those who are already on the ground, or they can also come up with a company that can also source support from whatever assistance that's coming from MCC. And with that said, I will just give opportunity to our callers on the line.
All participants are unmuted.
Okay, there's a caller on the line. Caller, your name and where you're calling from.
Hey, John, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, hi, my name is Eastman, Jimmy Eastman. And when it comes to power generation in Liberia, I've worked with LEC for a couple of years. As Mr. Ralph Sonkole was saying, one of our concerns is that most of the consumers we have currently are households. Households do not consume that much. I mean, their contribution to our revenue is very low. It's the industrial consumers who consume real and other kind of power. There are different kinds of power consumption. I'm not going to go into details here, but they are the ones who really contribute and get the money back. So my question is, if we look at what Ghana did, before Ghana put up that big reservoir that they had a bauxite company ready to buy X amount of power energy in watt hours from them. What is the plan? We have to engage industrial consumers because that's the only way LEC will be profitable if we have industrial consumers on the grid. Okay, and I would also like to ask Mr. Ralph, how has the experiment toward renewable energies gone? Because that may be an avenue to pursue, given the high, sun energy concentration. But then there is the rainy season that towards some of that. But I'd like to know what his opinion is.
The good thing is, thank you very much, and sincerely from the recovery portfolio. That's what we're talking about. We have, like I said, we have a lot of challenges when it comes to the cross-border connection. Sometimes we go for like 2-3 days without power, and our dream and aspiration is how we can find an alternative means of power. Solar power is one of those means we're thinking about. But we're looking for the right investors around the world who wants to invest in Liberia or who wants to invest in the Nima grid. We have the land space, we have the local expertise, we have the local content. We can navigate our ways within the local space, but we need that investor who has the capital to invest into solar energy to produce up to.
Okay, we're kind of losing Ralph. So, Jimmy, if you are still on the line,
yes,
I want you to be there and share with us your experience with LEC. What you think is going on before, or what is going on now? What are some of the ways you suggest that people invest in LEC or power as a whole?
Okay, so I work with power transmission and distribution across the bridge. We were responsible for making sure the power gets from the generators, that it could be the hydro in Mount Coffee or the loop plants in across the bridge. And we make sure to get to the substation and it's distributed to the different neighborhoods. We control that entire system. What we forecasted, the cost of kilowatt hours, okay, was a serious issue. If we were to charge the amount that we had to recoup our investment, we'll find that ordinary consumers would not be able to afford it. So during the rainy season, we have hydro production. Hydro production is less expensive, because you have the water turns the turbines and generates the energy. So it's great during the rainy season. But during the dry season, we run as few as one turbine because the water levels go so low that we have about 4 turbines down there. Now I think they got bigger and better turbines. By the time we had only about 4, each of them producing about 15 megawatts. And we had to turn all of them off but one. So we relied on thermal production during the dry season. And we also butt bills with Firestone and Beaumont. I believe they used to supply us with some power on parts of our grid during the dry season, and we give them power during the rainy season. And at peak hours, we would have to turn on the thermal units. Once you turn on one of those thermal units, the cost of production, you just raised it. And the best, the most advantage we got was for embassies, businesses. When those kind of people are consuming, that's where we got all our money from. But individual households and stuff like that, as much as we want to distribute the power all around, they contribute very low. So the only way to spread the cost is to have those heavy consumers on your grid that will be able to cover a lot of the costs that will balance the household contribution. Other issues we had with it was there was some power theft, but that hadn't been the issue. The issue was how we can maximize our hydro production, minimize our thermal production to come to a lower cost per kilowatt hour generation. That was always our issue, okay? We had other issues with protection, grid protection, during the rain and the storm. It causes outages, we have to go out and repair it. Those are normal operational things. But the basic thing is how to bring down cost of production. That was the main issue we faced.
Thank you, Jimmy. Before I go back to Mr. Zuo, let me bring Charles in the discussion. Charles?
You mean William?
Okay, William.
Yeah. That's his area.
Don't confuse me, guys.
Yeah. So what I want to say to the caller, Mr. Eastman, is that that challenge of the pricing is something that is also faced too in around the world, because electricity is very expensive. Now, of course, in the U.S., the way they deal with that is they have mechanisms in place. What are you doing of 30-year or 50-year financing? Or maybe you have a private equity firm that is willing to invest and wait 2 or 3 or 4 years or 5 years for their bigger return on their investment. Or maybe there's some bonds available where that could be that could be utilized to help. Now, for Mount Coffee, something that was just extraordinary is that the grant that was provided, along with the capital, the little bit of capital that was provided from the government, helped to lower that cost of electricity. So we have to then look and say, in this space, there is an opportunity for us to invest in the distribution side of the business, but it's not going to be something where investors want a return immediately, 6 months or 1 year. It has to be something where this return is going to come a little bit later, maybe in year 4 or year 5. And also coupled with that, it has to be something where we're able to encourage bigger, larger businesses to plug into that grid. So those things are the one of the most encouraging thing is that this is not a challenge only for Liberia. It's also in the developed world also, and they have some solutions. And those are some of those solutions that we would say, hey, you know what, for Liberians in diaspora, let's see if we can be part of some of those solutions also, but focusing it on Liberia.
Okay, gentlemen, sorry, I went offline. I'm back.
Yeah, we see you. Mr. Depu, before I turn over to you, let me read your comment here from Mr. Sando Kone. He said, industrial manufacturers will come if energy becomes affordable. So the question is, how can we diversify energy to be able to lower the cost? Liberia is a small market for robust energy. Mr. Zuo, back to you.
Okay, thank you. I think that's one of the comments that I wanted to speak to with respect to the cost and the relationship with industrial entities. And I want to ask Ralph, if possible, what are some of the arrangements that your company is making with that of industrial entity like ArcelorMittal that you have high consumption of energy, and that of Cocopa? These are the major industrial area in Nima from your area. What are some of the arrangements? Are there partnership agreement? Are you making arrangement for distribution?
We currently have an agreement with Metal Steel, ArcelorMittal. Currently, we have constructed the entire line to Yekipa, but our challenge has been some level of consistency when it comes to the power from the Cote d'Ivoire. And that's one of the reasons why we are anticipating how we can partner with a company who can provide us an alternative source of power that is 99.9% reliable than what we're getting from the Ivory Coast. The issue with Cocopa, yes, we have a partnership with Cocopa. We are currently working on procuring material for the construction of the line to Cocopa. As you may know, Cocopa is about to do some heavy industrial activities. So we have that partnership with both companies when it comes to power generation. But our challenge has been the consistency in terms of the power from the Ivory Coast. Sometimes no company will want to wait for 24 hours before you can restore their power. So that has been one of the things we've been working on. And our dream and aspiration, like I said, is to see how best we find or we partner with somebody who is willing to either develop the breeding waterfall or the solar farm.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Eastman, can I chime in?
Sure.
You know, I was looking at the Ivorian electricity space, right? And one of the things that's very interesting is that they distribute electricity to a lot of other African countries, West African countries. And although their grid is very good, one of the things that they're running into, which we are experiencing, is that they need to generate more power, or they need more power. Let me say it another way. They need more power to be put into their grid. And so whether we do it from the Liberian side or not, or from another side, because that grid services a bigger area. So there's another opportunity there too, just from a business side, where we don't only just look at a facility, a generating facility in Liberia just for Liberia power, but look at it in such a strategic way where we're also providing them power also to Ivory Coast also. So we're selling to Ivory Coast on one side, so they're taking from us, And on the NIMBA side, now we are buying from them from another side. But what it does is that it makes the electricity more efficient and more cost efficient. Because once you get into the generating piece of building more generation, once you get into that, sometimes the cost presents a lot of challenges because of the supply and demand. So you always have to look at that balance. Do we have enough industries? Or investors will say, do you have enough industries? Well, if you don't have enough industries, then, you know, that's a little bit of a struggle for me to put money in because I know there's no demand. So we can look at where the demand is. We can look to service that demand from another angle. And then we can look at the supply and let the supply keep coming through a company like Jungle, where, yes, they continue to buy from that end, but it's reliable, it's safe, and it's consistent. And that's where, as a distribution company, that's your biggest concern, is safe, reliable, and consistent electricity. If they can get that, then they're going to get more revenue coming in. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Eastman.
Thank you, Charles. We'll go to Mr. Eastman.
Yes, yes. Here's my question I have for our men on ground. Have we tried using a more distributed type of dam generation? And the second question is, there must be an agreement before Cote d'Ivoire supplies us power. There's some terms of agreement, service level agreement. We could encode in that agreement that, you know, power outages, damages, or have to be restored, you know, restore MTTR, mean time to restore interval, so that we can make sure we don't have our businesses out of power for some time. So is there something written in that agreement that can guarantee us steady power?
Ralph is not on now, but we will get Ralph to respond to that when he gets back. But one thing I know is that the European Union is also supporting another power source that's coming, because CLSG, that is Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone, and that's another grid that's supposed to be coming up. So that is passing from Cote d'Ivoire, going through Maryland and Grand Bassa, and coming to Liberia, going to Sierra Leone. And it's anticipated to come online maybe by 2020. So that will be another source. But the one with Cote d'Ivoire is a private firm too that's also selling. It's not from government. So it's almost like an investment decision from both sides. So when he gets back, he will be able to tell us the term in our agreement. That's the information that I know about the Cote d'Ivoire power.
So Mr. Zuo, what does Cote d'Ivoire have that we do not have, for which Cote d'Ivoire is selling power to us and we don't even have or power to supply my hometown of Dodwicken?
Yeah, but the thing about it is that, like Kim said, you know, energy sector require long-term investment. And Liberia, what we had before, the Mount Coffee we had, does not have the capacity to supply, to generate current to supply as far as NIMBA or LOFA. And that will require distribution chain that will require more investment. So that has been one of the major problems we have. So the option came and they had an agreement with a West African power pool so that we can now buy from other countries, and looking at it in terms of comparative advantage, if the production in Cote d'Ivoire is far cheaper than that of production in Liberia, why can't we buy from Cote d'Ivoire and distribute it than to say we're going to run cable or to come up another grade that we don't have funding for? So that's the reason why the decision came in. So it's something that is almost the same thing that William was talking about. If the cost of purchasing the power in Cote d'Ivoire is going to get higher, and Guinea or Syria, Senegal is going to offer that cheaper, why can't we also buy from those sources if it's connected closer to Liberia? So all we need to do as a country, I think what Liberia is doing, and they're also investing into the generation. which should be about 88 megawatt at Mount
Mount
Coffee. Yeah, and that 88 megawatt, we have not even said 130. We are not consuming 30 megawatt because in all fairness, distribution is very slow across the country.
If I can just add to what you are saying, to answer Dennis's question, what Cote d'Ivoire has, Liberia does not. Cote d'Ivoire has better management. That's a short answer, and Liberia management sucks. Even if you bring wind power energy to Liberia, even the EU went today and took Edison Corporation and put it in Liberia and say, okay, you're taking over everything. It would not work because it's people that make decisions that make things happen. I live in Cote d'Ivoire. They have a better management system. They have food processing system. They don't import things like juice and all these different things. So if we can manage those small things, and that's why I stress management. I see all these people talking about EU. Look, we've been hearing the story that we're going the Mount Coffee story, the West Africa story for how many years now? That's just a trick when European companies ready to come to Africa, they know where to trickle our button, they know how to get us to sign this concession deal. So what they tell us, oh, we'll provide power to you guys. How long have you heard that nonsense? It's complete nonsense. EU is not going to support real power generation in Africa, and Liberia cannot rely on Cote d'Ivoire for power. One, national security. Two, what happens if you build all the distribution lines and then 5 years from now, Cote d'Ivoire goes into war, or God forbid something happens, or there's a storm in Cote d'Ivoire, then what are you going to do then? Look, we can't keep allowing other people to fix our problem, okay? We got to stop that nonsense. Liberia can have power generation in Liberia, and that's what we should focus, not on EU. And what would I say? I will share one last thing before I go. Everywhere in the world, we already know that power is subsidized by the state. There's no country in the world, France, America, and I had a slide here right there. There we go. This is a matter where it said which companies gets the most federal subsidy for power generation in America. Okay, and you go down the list here. Look at all these companies: 2 billion, 1.9, 1.7. These are all the companies: Sun Energy, Duke Energy. Okay, no company. The fact is, the government, our central bank, all right, and our investment decision, our poor agreement, which I'm wearing a t-shirt probably today. So right now it's a joke, and the only solution is, oh, America, what you call IMF going to help us. Oh, France going to help. Do you think France look like they don't give people money for free? So while you hear that conversation, I'm 40 years old. I've been hearing that conversation for over 20 years. And we hear that conversation unless Liberians, us that sitting down here, get together and say, including our brother in Liberia, let's set up a corporation, an energy corporation. Let's go to the government and say, look, we can do this thing. You need to bring in your share to subsidize, and we will do the work. We will hire the best managers, we'll build the best platform, we'll get some investors, and we'll make this thing work. It's not going to work. And I bet to take anybody on that challenge, because nowhere in the world, whether it's Ghana, South Africa, Singapore, Kenya, is the power are given to them by another country. So,
Alex, I want to do a point of correction, Alex. I want to do a point of correction that because of the geographical locations of some of these cities that's in West Africa, that they do have a similar setup like we have in Nimba.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct.
So they are there. But to your
that's
point,
that's an alternative. Okay.
Yeah.
That's an alternative. That's like a backup. That's
No. This is But I do agree that we should. I'm not saying we should be 100% reliable on external source of power generation. No, we have a good start. We have the Mount Coffee. We have some of these other generating facilities, but the distribution isn't there yet. Now, I do agree with you. We can add. We can build our own generation.
Okay, now let me give chance to Mr. Eastman, I would like for you to actually, based on your past experience, what are some of the capacity constraints that you had then at LEC and looking at why it is now? What are some of the things you also observed that we need to work on?
Right. Thank you. So you're looking at generation or you're looking at distribution? Because there are two parts of the whole.
I think that our problem is the management side of it in terms of the distribution. Even as we speak, they're trying to, in fact, they have already acted a lot to talk about power theft. Even at that, the power theft is still high among even people that you consider as senior officials. They still don't pay electricity bill, some illegal connection all over the place. And I know you from your past experience. What are some of the ways that we can actually help to improve the system in terms of the distribution mechanism?
Okay, that's a pretty good question. When it comes to distribution, you have to build lines that can, first of all, withstand the weather that we face in Liberia. If we're going to build a distributive network, it can vary in cost. You can build it with wooden poles, or you can build it with those lattices, steel lattices. So the first thing is to build a sturdy distribution network. There's another option available. Other companies, because we could just generate the power and have other companies distribute it. In other words, privatize distribution. That way, you won't have to bear the cost of distribution. Okay?
Jungle Company, that's what they're doing.
That's what Jungle Company is doing right now. And we're talking about Monrovia, because that's the area where you have industrialization is at its highest peak. You got cement coal, you got Coca-Cola, you have all of these beer factory, and all of these entities are still struggling with power generation. I mean, electricity. They're still using diesel generators.
Yeah, but that means that they are generating. If you generating, I'm only talking about distribution now. Okay.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
Just like you said, we have only one of the turbines under utilization right now. We have a capacity of 88 megawatts. Why are we not? Let me just say this again. For power to make money, you have to use almost 95% of your capacity. It's the strangest thing. You have to use on a transformer. We design our transformer and plan our transformers to be at 95% capacity, and sometimes we even over because we have peaks and stuff. Okay. Yes. So if you underutilizing your generation plant to the point of 88, you have 88 and you're only using 15. Why do you need someone else generating power? We only need people to distribute it. We need people to build a distributed network, and the generated power will be handed to them, not to generate power. So I'm not understanding why why we went that way, because we have enough power generated. We need the power distributed. That's what we need.
We went that way. Eastman. We went that way because of a couple of things. It's easier and it's quicker to move funds for generation to do it. Now, for distribution, it's a lot harder because you're looking at really putting in lines a mile at a time. So that was why it was a little bit, when you look at the price point for the Mount Coffee plant, it was 3 times higher. Yes, we had Ebola 18 months. We had a lot of issues that caused that price to be high. But that was something that you had to look at building it. And then the technology for scalability and all of that good stuff, this was one of the best because it was hydro and the water could be coming in. So that's why they went that way.
But you guys, can I just ask a question here? You guys are denying the fact, okay, you smart engineers, that even if the hydro plant was in operation, that even if you sold electricity 15 cents per kilowatt, that the company is still going to run a deficit. And that money has to come from somewhere every year. You have to still maintain these posts. You have to have maintenance. You have to pay people. Where would that extra money come from? So billionaire is not the problem. And most of the times we think with one set of idea, let's build a road today, right? You build a road. What happens now when a car crashes on the road and something breaks on the road? You don't have a budget to subsidize it. You don't have an emergency service. So in these countries, you build a lot of things in 5 years' time, and that's what happened to the LEC. And that's a management problem. That's not a technology. We have fine technicians.
It is not the
That's the one. You're telling me
problem.
where the extra is going to come from.
It's
where the extra come from. We got less than 10 minutes to go.
Let's talk about something else.
If we cannot get the Ralph back online, what we just want to say here is, to our listener, we have been discussing tonight. We've been discussing electricity generation in Liberia and distribution as well. So if you have any other concern or question, you can give us a call. We have 7 more minutes to go. But before we leave, I just want to go back to, I'm trying to go back to someone with the experience. It's not that the argument and the point put forth in terms of managerial thing is very much key. I understand from Ellis' point, and myself, I know that's an experience I have in Liberia. It's a constraint in terms of managerial decision making. They outsource the management, LEC management, to a private firm. And even with that identical outsourcing, we still have issue of what? Managerial challenge. So that's why I'm asking Mr. Eastman, how do we really, what are some of the remedies that we can find to this kind of a constraint we have? The government is also one of the major customers of LEC. You know, you see that even government owned LEC is difficult to pay. And you wonder, but then how do you anticipate power generation, distribution or revenue generation when you yourself you owe and you don't pay? So these are some of the things that we see, we observe. So how do you what's your professional expertise that you can give or advice that you can give to the government library, also private investor like that?
Thank you, Mr. Zul. Thank you. Hitting a lot of points on the nail. Okay. Management. Today we have a different core of management. When I was there, this is before the war, we were all Liberians. Liberians from managing director, deputy, all the managers, engineers, all of us were Liberians. So right now what we have is a vacuum of knowledge. The knowledge base has been eroded. Okay, very few engineers are there. I talked to some of the Ghanaian engineers that's who have taken over. So unless you get the Liberians trained, they don't necessarily have to be full-fledged engineers, but they have to be well-trained technicians to man the place. That's what you really need. Because if you're not into designing or if you're only into maintenance, you just need fewer engineers. Engineers are specifically needed for more design and some highly technical skills. Well, we can train our people, our technicians, to man that place. So training has to be a key issue for changing our trajectory. The other thing, I understand the argument that the building a distributed line is very expensive. Infrastructure is one of the most expensive things. After roads, power networks are the next highest cost to build infrastructure. Okay, and then I have another question for Ralph, but he's not here. Also, telecommunications, it was similar until we went to wireless.
He's here now.
It's a long-term investment. If you're going to allow these small generations, then you defeat the purpose of creating the hydro plant in the first place. You know, if someone who brings you that argument, it's too expensive to build these infra, then why put that much money in the hydro when you're not going to utilize the generation of it? Sometimes you have to just bite the bullet. Now, what other ways of doing it is have what they call these mini hydros, where like in the rural areas, where you got rural areas, you got little mini hydros. Those are where it will be very good to apply these solutions, where there's not enough, there's too much distance between the main highway, and there's a power need in that area. But again, the power need has to be driven by industry and not only by individual consumption, or you will not make money. That's just the nature of the beast. You cannot make much money out of household revenue. Okay, so the solution for household revenue will be using maybe alternative sources. But if there's not an industry that you're going to feed with power, you will not see early returns of your investment. It's just the way it is. You have, the more industry we have, the better it will be. Okay.
Thank you.
Management. We did have some managing issues, but not as it is today. I think workforce development will be one of the key ways to address that issue, and that is from the top down, and also give everybody training in ethics, you know, so that the power theft and power, because a lot of the things are that power theft is assisted through personnel that is employed there.
Thank you.
A lot of times.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Thank you very much. But one of the things, the last point I just want to come up with is Ralph on board now?
Yeah, Ralph is on board. But before Ralph comes in, Ralph is on board. We also have our West African correspondent who just joined us. I just want to give him a few minutes so that he can comment on what we are discussing and also give our news roundup from the motherland. Mr. Edward Amarak, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much. As you can see, are you getting me? Good evening. Thank you very much. I think I just listened keenly to you. You are discussing something about electricity. As you can see me in the dark, it's the same. I think that is just, it's just, I don't know whether it's a coincidence, but it's just an epitome of example. Electricity is actually funny, but it's interesting also. Electricity actually is very good when it comes to Africa, Sierra Leone, Liberia, whatever. I think when you watch at our environment, we have all opportunity around us. Unfortunately, we don't have the power, and power can, especially when it comes to electricity, can enable one to do whatever thing you want to do. We have a very fertile land. We have opportunity to create jobs and whatsoever thing. But most of the companies that fail to come here to establish certain businesses, they realize that in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and wheresoever, we don't have enough power. And you cannot establish a company here into whatsoever you want to do. The first thing that you must take care of, there must be good road network. And wheresoever there is good road network, there must be power. Then the power, when they can be able to effectively generate power, they can be able to empower whatsoever industry that they will become. Unfortunately, this thing has not yet. You see, I'm surrounded in the dark. I'm just trying to look for a cool place so that I can communicate with him. Having said that, we have interesting stories going on in Africa, and perhaps with the involvement of Russia in African politics and trying to help African countries, we may see that the world power may be so focused on Africa. But it is also reminding me that this may also come like the struggle for partition of Africa that happened long time ago in the 1900s, though Europeans used to come into Africa. But when it came to the struggle for partition of Africa, we saw France having an interest into Africa. We saw America and Great Britain. Now, you see the Western world and Russia, which is some part of Asia and some part of and some way part of Europe, but still they regard themselves as European, want to come and do some investment into Africa. And America, on the other hand, is not too happy because Russia wants to invade into Africa. And Africa is still seen as a virgin land. We have a lot of opportunity around. Unfortunately, we do not have the resources to ginger up to authorities or to make things happen. So Russia is holding a conference, and that conference has been over. A lot of African leaders were invited over there to go and listen. But I think Russia is not only coming with business interests into Africa, they also want to fortify the African countries in terms of ammunitions, training their army. And I believe America may not be too happy into seeing such development like that. The entire African head of state, some actually send their representative to go and represent them over there. Another interesting thing about the news over there is when Nana Akufo-Addo, the president of Ghana, was spotted sleeping while he was in the conference. Being that he's a little bit old man, that particular picture was taken and sent all over social media. Most of the Ghanaians were commenting that this where the Ghana economic or the Ghanaian economy is not as it used to be, because they have a president who hardly listen. At the same time, when he get the others are trying to take note and ask important question, he is there sleeping. But these are just some of the size check of what happened. That was very important, and each and every country was represented. I believe that if George Weah didn't attend, he may have sent a representative to go and attend that particular China-Russia of the Russia-Africa summit, and it was held by Vladimir Putin, who is the president of Russia, and they have some trade agreement that will likely benefit Africa. And in South Africa, that is the southern part of Africa, we saw the Democratic Alliance. That was one of the white party into South Africa that is widely associated with apartheid. The head of the party, who is Mansi, was a black. He resigned yesterday because of a lot of allegations. And since that party was actually about to forget about it being classified as a white party, but because of certain circumstances, when the mayor, who was once the head of that particular party, resigned about 5 or 6 years ago, he was sent to head the party chairmanship. So with that, the black man has to resign and claim that they want to turn it into a white man party. And in Nigeria, we have interesting news going on. They are still trying to find out certain schools where they have boys, especially boys, who are normally cycling into these houses. They claim that they are there to teach them Quranic education. Unfortunately, most of them are being treated as slaves. So yesterday, again, another house was enacted, and most of the school ringleaders were rounded up, and they are now awaiting trial. In Sierra Leone here, what we call exam malpractice is a type of syndicate that people are actually running. Before this time, I know we have a lot of other syndicates, but it's like they're trying to establish an exam cartel where they have some students and lecturers, including some students and lecturers. They will just meet if there is a public exam or whatsoever, first semester, second semester examination is about to go on. To organize that cartel to ensure that they give student grace on free basis, and when a few amount of leons converted into dollar will be given to them. And it was a kind of the police have an alert, and they went and rounded out of those lecturers. Some of the students were expelled, some were suspended, while some of the lecturers were actually sacked from the college, and ACC is trying to invade into the system to ensure that they get into trial. In Liberia, something happened in Nimba County that, to be Ganta specific, there was somebody who was buried there. Unfortunately, there was a kind of misunderstanding between them and the family in question, the bereaved family. They said the corpse were being buried into a coffin that was very cheap. The family asked for them to change the coffin. They refused. But after everything, they went and assumed that particular corpse from the grave. It evolved into a huge crisis that involved one person was actually wounded, and the lady's corpse was taken and shown to the floors. Everybody started to condemn the act, but I think it was not a kind of chronological arrangement between them and the family.
That was our West African correspondent, Mr. Edward Amara, giving us a beautiful roundup of things that are happening back in Mama Africa. And we are glad to have you back, Mr. Ralph Songale. Now back to you, Mr. Zuo, as we try to wrap this up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Songale. We have some questions for you here, but I think because of time, I just want to go straight into technology enhancement. One of the challenges that the LEC face in Monrovia is power theft. And you are also doing distribution in rural area, and I know with the limited capital and the household distribution is some of the challenge. What are you doing in terms of technology enhancement to discourage or detect power theft? Because, for example, you work with technology. Do you have a system to switch somebody off?
Exactly. And interestingly, when we took all the grid, we were using a conventional meter. So now we have transitioned to a prepaid meter. So the prepaid meter have ensured that all of our customers have to prepay. So we have approximately about 10% of power theft across NIMBA. Because what we did was we blocked up all of our customers and assigned it to specific account officer. So the account officer reviews your file and realizes that, for example, if you were spending $10 US a month for current, and we realized that for 1-2 months you're not buying current, that account officer will deploy a power theft team to come and ascertain from you why you're not buying them. So that strategy has been very successful. And today we can safely say that across the NIMBA grid, we'll have about 10% power theft. So we are using both technology, and also we are using our manual expertise to see how best we can control power theft across the NIMBA grid.
What are some of the knowledge sharing that you do between you and the LEC in terms of management and power revenue generation? Are there any arrangement between the management of Jungle Power and that of LEC to share experience? Because we know that distribution is a challenge in Monrovia.
Yeah, we actually do that. But virtually the fact, LEC is our boss. We report to LEC. We don't have a direct relationship with CIE or Cote d'Ivoire. Our relationship in this management contract is with LEC. So we share a lot of experiences, we share a lot of information, and we share a lot of things, expertise, technical support with LEC.
Okay, before then you were off. Mr. Eastman asked a question here that in the agreement between Cote d'Ivoire and Liberia, you mentioned that there can be outages at times. So are there any provision that actually safeguard your investment that also cover up in the event where you're having these outages as a company?
Exactly. There's provision in the contract that if the outages, we report that to LEC, and LEC subsequently report that to CIE, and that will be discounted from their monthly bill. So there's a provision that safeguards and protects our investment. But from the customer perspective, customer wouldn't want to listen to those outages. They want to have current 9.9% accurate. So even if there's a premium given to you, the customer wouldn't want to listen to that. And even if you get an extra day, they want that current 24/7 and on time.
Thank you so much.
Do we have a time frame for repair?
Kami, there's a question, Kami?
Yes, there's a question. Is there a time frame of MTTR mean time to repair the specification in our contract? In other words, they can't take 2-3 days. They have to do about 24 hours minimum. Is there something like that there?
Within our contract is 24-hour maximum that we should have an outage. And if we have an outage, be communication to us why there's an outage. If from that side, then there's a bit of premium given to us for the outage.
And is there a time that is say like 90% of the time they're supposed to be supply power? Is there like
the contract
guarantee?
The contract says that they should provide us current 365 days a year, 24/7. And in the interim where there's an outage, LEC must ensure that there's a power. So it's from that backdrop that we too, as a business entity that want to be sustainable, also that wants to create customer satisfaction, we are also thinking about how we can partner with anybody in the world to see how we can create an alternative source of power, like solar energy, like a mini dime, or like a mini power production.
Yes, that's exactly for backup. I get it.
Sure.
That's what you're looking for now.
Yeah, we're looking for any investor who's willing to invest to partner with us to see how best we can find a backup power supply or an alternative source of power.
Right.
Thank you so much for your time tonight, Mr. Ismail. Thank you. And now I will turn over to Mr. Jai, and he will take up from there.
Okay. I want to thank you all for the time. I mean, it's beautiful, man. This is one reason why I'm so excited about focus on Liberia, because you don't get this anywhere else. So let me quickly go around the room for your final thoughts. Be quiet. So let me start with you, Charles, for your final thoughts as we conclude the broadcast tonight.
I just follow up with what you said, Dennis. Awesome information sharing here. Really look forward to seeing more information on Jungle Power and an opportunity to see how those of us in the diaspora can assist, in the areas of investment and seeing you, Jungle Power, succeed.
Let me go to Mr. Eastman, the guy with the expertise from LEC or prior. Mr. Eastman, your final thoughts before, and we really want to appreciate your time here, even though you're not an official guest tonight, but you played that role very well, and we want to appreciate you. Mr. Eastman, your final thoughts.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity just to even to participate. These are good discussions, and especially the input you're getting from the guy on the ground, Mr. Sonkole, because to address the power issue, we found that electrical power distribution is very closely tied into country development. So it's not something we can do without. And there are challenges, but we may have to use a hybrid fix, just like he said. Right now they can get power from Cote d'Ivoire, but they need backup, because that's the only way we'll get industries opening up when we can get in reliable power. But I like the show. Thank you very much for the topic.
Thank you. So let's go to you, Mr. Sangale on the ground, for your final thoughts as we end the broadcast.
Thanks very much, and trust me, it was an interesting moment for us to share our experiences with one another. And I think it's important that we do most of these things to see how best we can rebuild Mama Liberia. We can only build Mama Liberia if we believe in how we share knowledge, how we share ideas. And I'm always open when it comes to infrastructure. You can call upon me. When it comes to energy power, you can call upon me, because I too run a small business, and I have a construction firm called Brothers Engineering Consultancy. So whenever it comes to infrastructure development, it's at the depth of my heart, and I believe that it's only us that can develop Liberia. So on behalf of Jungle Energy Power, or on behalf of the CEO, Mr. Thomas Floyd, we want to extend our heartfelt appreciation to Mr. Depuzo, who contacted us to be part of this show. And we can say to you, we are in a dead need of investment from people in the diaspora. We have the local expertise, we have access to land, we have access to minimum capital, but we need somebody to come and collaborate with us. We want to build our own city in Nima where you can have everything. So when you have the potential out there to see how very you can find investors to invest in the energy, into real estate, into merchandise, please contact Jungle Water Group of Investment, or please contact Jungle Energy Power, so that we can make Liberia a better place. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. And we're very, very delighted to have you as our guest tonight. Let me go to Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones. Alex, one of the things you stress is we can loom our way out of all this trouble. We have to develop our economy. We have to have corporations, and we have to do it ourselves, because nobody will give us free lunch. Final thoughts.
Well, thank you, Dennis. Again, Mr. Rapp did a wonderful job tonight. I know for someone who doesn't run the company and just a consultant, sometimes it's difficult to answer all the questions. But I thought he did a fine job. And like he said, we desperately need investment. And I think we're here to do that, to help galvanize investment, whether in terms of capital or HEMA, to help our country. Mr. Eastman was very terrific. I'm surprised he's not running LEC. So I think we're all knowledgeable, and we need people who have the skills in a particular area. One of the things that I dislike about many Liberians is the jack of all trades, so they can do everything. But when I find someone who has an extraordinary knowledge in one or two areas, and that person become like an encyclopedia. And that's what I heard from Mr. Eastman tonight. So again, it was a wonderful show. And I hope the investment talk begin, and so we can move forward, because just talking about it and doing nothing about it, that is not a good thing. So William, you got to finish the paperwork that we're talking on, so we can start getting investment and pulling together, and the bonds and all these things. So yes, help is on the way. We're here. I think we're serious about it. And that's what this show is about. It's not there to just patronize people or say nice things. We're here to solve problems. Thank you very much to all the listeners for supporting us so far, and all those who keep coming on. It's your show. Anybody can come on with any topics, reach out to us, and so we can make Liberia better. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Mr. King?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this is just really encouraging. I know there's Sando Kane. I saw those comments. And Alvin Kokoli, definitely want to just acknowledge that I saw those comments and they're on point. I think we're in a great space. To Alex, now, what I want to say to you is that this is 2 companies we have identified as a vehicle. And I was telling you that as we go on this journey, you know, these are things that are happening in Liberia, and you know, so this is just exciting. I think there's something definitely there, and I look forward to how we move this thing to a place where it becomes tangible. Thank you.
I mean, I can thank all of you guys for your time tonight. It's Saturday. We're supposed to be somewhere partying and having fun, but you chose to be here and discuss our country. Liberia is the only country we have, so whether you are dual citizen, triple citizen, half citizen, we are all committed to moving Liberia forward. There are different ways in which people think this can be done. For you and for me, we think that the economy is all about the economy. And we don't have ready-made political solutions. Economic solutions will do far better than political. Hey, sweetie, that's Ms. King. Thank you also for joining the show. I want to thank you all very much from the bottom of my heart. Mr. Rob Sankala, even though I don't understand why you are jungle water.
Jungle power.
Yeah. I'm
a quick background. Let me give you a quick background.
Okay.
You know, the company was funded from the forest rich area of Goton in Sanikote Mine District in Nima County, and that through a mining process. So it was from that forest rich area that the old man coined the name Jungle Water Group of Investment, because the initial investment that brought the company to what it is today came from mining. So the water that comes from the mine is that water that gave birth to Jungle Energy Power. So we say Jungle Water Group of Investment.
You see, all this good stories should be on your website.
All right, thank you very much.
So don't come out here.
Mr. John, our next discussion this coming Saturday will be on tourism, and we have a gathering commitment of Mr. Amin Modar. Amin Modar runs a hotel, and also he also trying to set up a beach and all of these things. So he's a Liberian that we want to discuss indigenous Liberian business, like the way we deal with jungle water and jungle power. So we want people who are into the sector to share their experience. So he will be here with us. And I hope we can get another Liberian who's in the tourism.
Well, let's get Kochi, the city mayor. Let's reach out to him. You know, tourism, that's his area.
I think so, it would be good if he get on board with us. But one of the things that there is that we want the Business and Economic Forum to be more private sector driven. So the private sector engagement will give rise to most of our diaspora people to know that there are positive things happening on ground. And we will be mixing it with some politicians, but I think if we remain with the private sector engagement, will be more quiet.
I think that's just an excuse for Twitter to not show up. That's all it is. Because he knows when he shows up, you get eaten up.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Jai. You can take over. Thank you. My last observation here is
even though I'm wearing the t-shirt, he's still not going to come.
I just want to say to Jungle Power and other Liberians that are interested in the sector, you will see that the constraint analysis that were done on Liberia, even the MCC, before the MCC project came to power and role, are binding constraint to development. And the cost of energy, if the cost of energy is very high, the cost of business will definitely be high. And you know that the household income in Liberia, in terms of, you got high poverty. So if we maintain the rate at 26 cents, even it's better to go as low as what? 20 cents or 15 cents or 11 cents. So it can be affordable to encourage poor people to get into businesses, to provide opportunity for academic institutions, you know, for medical facilities and all of these things. If you have energy that is cheaper, hospitals they won't go down because of lack of generators. So it's something that is very much important for the economy to boom. So we need to go into that area. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, when you give it to me, then you take it back. But that's that.
Take it back.
But I don't think
oh man,
we can exhaust, you know, Liberia's problem and what we can do to help. But this is a great start, and I want to thank you. As you said, the next time we're on the Business and Economic Forum, we're going to talk about tourism and all untapped areas that have not been touched. Sunday, please watch us tomorrow at 6 p.m. We're going to be talking about African immigrant collaboration and unity. We, the African immigrants in the diaspora, what can we do together to collaborate? Because we're talking about Ivory Coast right now, giving Liberia power. Ivorian immigrants, Liberian immigrants from South Africa, we can all come together and make one giant-sized impact on both our communities here in the United States and also back home Africa. So tomorrow we're going to be speaking with the queen of the AU. The queen, the AU has a queen. She's going to be on the show tomorrow. We're also going to speak to another entrepreneur from Uganda. He's here right in the Metro Atlanta area, and he's going to be on the show tonight. So you don't want to miss this. Until then, from all of us here at Focus on Liberia, we want to say thank you so much. And we started with this music. We want to end with it. Take Me Home Slowly.
Ready? Let me cut your nails so we can go.